Thank you. We could sit here and talk for hours about the U.S. election. It's far more interesting. However, I'm really pleased to join Gareth, Owen, and Rory to talk about monetization strategies that everybody in this room could activate when it comes to video. It's really challenging when you don't have an established video content library to have a meaningful video strategy. And so something that I've been thinking about is that the key to this, I think, for traditional news publishers with a lot of text-based editorial content, it's really just sitting right in your pocket. The way the content consumption is changing has created some really interesting opportunities for video, and I hope that this isn't too much of a review from what we covered before, but I appreciate you all taking some time out of your busy afternoon, and hopefully I'll share some things that are interesting with you. For those that aren't familiar with SpotX, we're fundamentally a technology company, and we work with publishers who use our programmatic-first ad server and supply-side platform. We were founded in 2007. We have over 300 employees globally, and we actually received a strategic investment from our TL Group in 2014. Since then, we've really established a strong European footprint, and I oversee the international business. I'm responsible for developing it. We have connections with essentially every major programmatic buying platform, and we're pleased to partner with many publishers in the room here today, as well as strategic buyers, whether they be technology companies or media agencies. But to get things started, set the stage a little bit. There's something about video that's just different. Brands love it because the sight, the sound, the motion creates an environment in which you can convey much more information, much more branded experience than you can through a traditional image-based advertisement. But it's not just on the advertising side. Last night, I love the SVOD services. So right now I'm watching The Crown. My wife and I, we moved here a year and a half ago, and we have a few things we need to learn yet about British culture. But we do love it, and it's just, we think about how much of our time goes to consuming video content. There's so many options today. And they say that an image is worth 1,000 words, but a video is really worth 1.8 million, kind of a specific number, but I wonder how they figured that out. But the click-through rate on search results for video is 41% higher than traditional text-based ads. And also 60% of most users, when they go to a page, if they have the opportunity to view video content, they will before reading an article. Now, the interesting thing is that the nature of video consumption does not live on an island. It is not unique from any other media that we consume. And we no longer live in a world where we consume digital content slaved away to our computers. I don't know where you when you checked the news last on a digital device, but I bet it was like this. You might have had your laptop open, taking a break from lunch and pull up an RSS feeder, but for me, I have the Apple News app. I've been bombarded with messaging over the US election. But one of the things I noticed is a few weeks ago, I was really sick of it. It's just so much negativity and it's terrible. And so I disliked a few of the articles about the US election. And Apple's algorithm was actually very responsive. When I opened up my news app in the next few days, it was suddenly the stuff that I really like Elon Musk and SpaceX. And I'm a real nerd. We can talk about it at the coffee break. But, this isn't unique. Last year was the first year that consumers spent more time interacting with media on mobile devices than they did on desktop. We will never again consume digital media with more time spent on desktop than with mobile devices. So if you accept what I was saying about video, and video being entertaining and immersive and creating this really strong connection, well, then your video strategy fundamentally has to occur in a mobile-first environment. I can't talk about digital media anymore without considering mobile as a cost of entry. I think that PricewaterhouseCoopers and the IB UK do the industry a real great service here because projections are really squishy. I don't know if anybody in the room has participated in a projection study. But it's a lot of this. I'll look at our financials. I'll make an informed estimate. I try to provide as good of a guidance as I can to the RAG that I'm partnering with. But what this is a retrospective view into the actual dollars spent through partnerships with major media agencies and also major publishers. I'm sure many people in this room participated in this survey. So you take all the beans of every dollar and every media plan, you put them into a bunch of buckets, and then PwC allocates them. And between 2014 and 2015, the two channels that grew fastest in terms of year-over-year growth were mobile and they were video. So the brand investment is following these shifts in consumer behavior, and you can see it reflected in the ad spend. This is the year where the most budget will be invested by brands in desktop video ever. So you have this huge growth in mobile video, more than quadrupling over the next 5 years, well, nearly, but it's coming at the expense of desktop video. Now, there is an elephant in the room, and it is that video content's extremely expensive to produce. Most of the publishers in this room aren't sitting on huge established video content libraries like a lifestyle publisher. And for those that do, you're in a really great position because there's not much of it, so the demand is so great that it's relatively easy to monetize directly. But when it costs up to £100,000 per minute of premium content to produce, it's really difficult to figure out a meaningful strategy to scale that out. That's why we just announced a partnership with Vemba, which is a content distribution platform. And Vemba operates a marketplace where if I own content, I can put that content onto a platform where it gets monetized by companies that are licensing the right to distribute and advertise against that content. On the buy side of this marketplace are publishers with attention. So if you're a news publisher and you have a lot of traffic and you have a lot of eyeballs, but you don't have a lot of video content, you can tap into the Vemba marketplace and you could invest in procuring the rights to advertise against specific pieces of video content. Here's the cool part. Through our integration with Vemba, you can set up pricing rules for the sale of adverts against that syndicated content that ensure that the revenue that will be gleaned from the sale of the adverts will at least cover the cost of the content. If you can't find an ad, the video player fails to render. And then you can move on and run a text-based ad against it. The other opportunity that's interesting is there's a lot of mobile web traffic. Owen, thank you. Your presentation was great on that. And there's brands who want to get into these environments with their video advertising, and they don't care. They're open toward monetizing not against video content, but they want to get in front of consumers with an impactful, motion-driven experience on the mobile device. Through in-content and in-read units, you can do this. There's a few players in the market that provide this service today. We're unique in that we provide the player value added with the rest of our ad serving and supply side platform tools, so there's no media margin, there's no markups associated with it. So I hope that I've shared a few ideas. Ultimately, when we look forward and we think about how are you going to bring video into your monetization strategy, it has to take into account multi-channel. Otherwise, it's a complete non-starter. But with that, I'll turn it around, and I think we're gonna do the panel discussion. Unless you have more questions about the election.
Thank you very much indeed. Are you worried that things are going to get more and more complex and that more and more people are going to get into video online? I'm thinking particularly of Twitter and their move into live sports. Could something like Twitter become essentially an online, instant, live broadcaster taking on almost anybody?
I'm fundamentally concerned about the future of independent publishing in a world where walled gardens have so much control over the distribution and the addressability of media against content. So yes, I'm very concerned about it. I think that we've learned a lot today about the challenges of monetizing these audiences when they're on mobile devices.
Yes.
And when you think about a company like Twitter or Google or Facebook or any other walled garden, they're in a prime position with a direct-to-consumer relationship that has addressability. And they can license the right to message against that consumer using that data to any brand that wishes to put in the investment. Yes. I think that it's very important for publishers to back industry efforts like Digitrust, which is essentially an IFA, a similar identifier for mobile but for desktop web, which really levels the playing field and removes that competitive opportunity. But if we don't do anything, I am very concerned about it.
Okay, and I've been terribly restrained. I haven't used the dreaded bot word once until now. What happens if it's not human beings watching your video, and why should advertisers pay to advertise to robots?
Yeah, well, they shouldn't.
How do you stop it?
Oh, well, I think that the onus is more on the buy side. So from a publishing perspective, listen, we've all got strategies of increasing our traffic. We're going to be working with different partners, and it's incumbent on us to verify that those companies have good reputations and that the traffic is legitimate. But in terms of branded investment, IAS, Double Verify, White Ops, I think there's great solutions on the market. And more or less, I consider the bot, the non-human traffic issue is more or less solved for a savvy enough marketer.
Okay. Is there a sense that those who benefit from such traffic don't actually care if they're not found out?
Well, why would you care if you don't get thrown in jail? And I think that one of the challenging things has been enforceability. Ultimately, these players are acting on very natural economic incentives. So long as there's an opportunity to get paid for this, you're going to have an issue. We've established partnerships with a few of our leading DSP partners where we actually have withholding programs, where when buyers identify traffic that is deemed as illegitimate, we'll actually withhold payment from the parties involved. That's been successful. One of the challenging things is that helps us within our platform and network, but without an industry-led coalition, obviously those companies can move to other platforms. So it's a challenge.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed.
You're welcome.